All right, hang on just 1 minute. Oh, we got 67 people. That's pretty good. Okay, well, let's go on ahead and get going. Thank you very much to everybody for joining us today. My name is Jeff Bullington. I am the conference moderator, the session moderator for today. My full-time job is director of the Nielsen Library at Adams State University, Alamosa, Colorado. You are seeing the beautiful San Luis Valley in my background picture. I'm glad to welcome Mia Warren and Veronica Arellano Douglas as our presenters today. Mia is the Assistant Head of Teaching and Learning with the University of Houston Libraries, and Veronica is the Head of Teaching and Learning of the University of Houston Libraries. And they are going to be talking on their session today, Building Up the Big Picture, Strategic Planning for Managers. Reminder to everybody, this session is being recorded. Captions are available by clicking on the captions link down below as you see it. We would ask that you use the Q&A function, which again, you will see on the bottom screen, for as you hear the presentation, if questions come up that you would like to explore with Mia and Veronica at the end, put them into chat as soon as you can. I'll be keeping an eye on all of those. Then when we get to Q&A, we'll work on trying to make certain they all get covered. You're also welcome to use the chat to say things or comment, but please, any direct questions, please use the Q&A. That is much most useful. And we've got a tech moderator who is helping keep an eye on things moving in the background, seeing all of that. And then hopefully we're getting live transcription as well. So I am just going to turn things over to Mia and Veronica, and I will turn off my camera so that we can focus on them and their message to us today. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll hear from you all again a little bit later.
Thank you, Jeff. Welcome, everyone. We're really excited to see all of you joining us. This is kind of amazing and a little bit scary. So we're going to go ahead and get started. As Jeff mentioned, I'm Veronica Arellano Douglas. I'm here with my colleague Mia Warren, and this is Building Up the Big Picture, Strategic Planning for Managers. And we really wanted to get started today by giving you a little bit of context of where Mia and I are coming from. We are heading up a new teaching and learning department at the University of Houston Libraries. We were created in October 2021, and we have a team, a really excellent team of 4 teaching and learning librarians and soon to be 2 student success librarians. We're all wonderful at what they do. We also have a new library-wide strategic plan that is really going to direct the work of the libraries over the next 5 years, and it's based on our new university strategic plan as well. Both Mia and I are relatively new, as I said, in our leadership roles. And the idea of deciding like departmental priorities, goals, strategic future planning and thinking is also a process that we are kind of learning as we do it. And we're certainly new to that. So I'm going to hand things over to Mia, who's going to start us off with some discussion.
Yeah, so this is going to be an interactive session. We want to hear from you all. So we have a couple of questions that we are going to facilitate and go through using Padlet. So our first question for the audience here is, what are the some of the persistent assumptions about strategic planning in academic libraries? So what are those things that you hear about strategic planning, good, bad, or otherwise? And I'm going to put the Padlet link in the chat. And the reason we want to use Padlet is so that you all can upvote people's ideas and comment, and so that we have a place also to gather all these ideas as well. So for those who may not have used Padlet before, there is a plus sign on the first column of our question, and that's where you would add your response. And it can be either as in the subject field, which I think is most people doing, or in the message box. So from what I see, we have that it's just for show. It doesn't happen. Employees have no say in it. It's clunky. Let's see. It doesn't include everyone. It takes too long. You don't have voices. It doesn't include the people of the work who's actually in the library. Results take a long time. It doesn't get used. There's suggestions not related to the day-to-day work. Not practical. It's top down. Formative. A lot of work. Okay. Thank you for being so active. There's a lot of thoughts here. Someone said it gives staff a common sense of direction. We're going to talk about that. Plans are rarely used to guide decision making. Oh, that's a good thought. Awesome. Thank you all. Takes a lot of time to just say what the dean or provost wanted. And that you could say time of having them write it rather than pretending to bring people in. Okay. Plans are often overlooked. I see one that says it can guide our future direction. So we have a mix. I feel like there's a lot of negative, but there's definitely some positive here, which I appreciate. And hopefully after this session, we can be a little bit more positive about it. Just a piece of paper. Ooh, economic management to guide the plan. It gets put on the website and gets forgotten. It's driven by university strategies. Okay, we have lots of thoughts. All right. Great, great, great. Well, like I said, hopefully we can challenge some of these assumptions today. And for those of you who have positive, I guess, thoughts toward it, that hopefully we can reinforce some of those today as well. Thank you all for being participatory. We'll have 2 more Padlet questions. So thanks for participating in our first one. So moving on, these are the foundational ideas that we're working with today when it comes to strategic planning and our thoughts about it. First, everyone can do strategic planning and thinking. I saw some people say in the chat that only the dean does it, or only the university plans it, or that only certain people do it. And the idea around this session is that you may not feel like you can do strategic planning yourself. I know I also didn't necessarily feel that way, but the idea that we want to present is that everyone can do this. It doesn't matter if you're a big picture thinker or a detail-oriented thinker, but strategic planning needs all of those thoughts. It needs a variety of strengths. So we're going to talk about how everyone can do this. Strategic planning and thinking is, however, a shift in mindset. So you're not necessarily thinking about the details. And while you are thinking about the work that you are doing day to day, it's not necessarily the nitty-gritty of that day-to-day work, but you're thinking about the overarching goals and the priorities that will direct whatever group you're part of or leading, and help determine at an individual level what people do that falls within that plan and what does not. And you never want to plan alone. I saw some people talk about in our Padlet that only certain people do it, or that not everyone's involved. And hopefully we can impart today that a large part of strategic planning and it being successful is having that buy-in from the people that are a part of that plan. So that means bringing in those voices as much as possible to help influence the plan, but not necessarily to have someone completely write it or completely determine the vision as a group, because we all know there can be too many cooks in the kitchen time to time. So today, we are going to start with what we mean by strategic planning in our context. So what do we mean by strategic planning? Then we're going to talk about yours and our strengths and challenges and how those pull into the strategic planning that we do. And what processes can you adopt? What processes have we adopted to do strategic planning for ourselves as people who don't necessarily see ourselves as strategic planners, and how we also bring in our team as part of that process. And Veronica's going to define strategic planning for us.
Thanks, Mia. Okay, so before we kind of dig into the meat of the presentation, we wanted to clarify what we're talking about when we're using the phrase strategic planning or even strategic thinking. So this session is one where we are not talking about an institution-wide strategic plan. So at the university or library level, we purposefully named our presentation strategic planning for managers, not like library deans or library directors. And we are really focused on thinking and planning strategically within a team. So for us, it's a department. For you, it might be a committee or a team that you coordinate, could also be a department. And we, are also focused on the thinking piece, because we really do believe that as leaders, we need to, as Mia mentioned, right, have a big picture mindset. So just wanted to kind of get that out of the way. We think, and our experience has been so far, that strategic planning and thinking can really help your team surface and stick to team values. And this really helps the plan move along. It can help you develop a shared sense of purpose and a mission so that everyone on your team is on the same page. We find this one really important. It will help people do work that is meaningful to them and the community that you serve. It can help you plan realistic goals for the year, set priorities, and maybe, like, most importantly, deprioritize certain work that no longer, that you just don't have to do anymore. And we also find that when we're thinking and planning in this way, it can help us ensure equitable workloads for the people who we supervise, as well as for ourselves. So I'm going to hand it over to Mia, who's going to talk a little bit about strengths and challenges within the strategic planning context.
Right. So as Veronica did, define strategic planning in our context, we're going to talk about this from a personal perspective. Our next section is the strengths that we bring to strategic planning, and we're going to talk about the ones that you, as fellow colleagues, may bring to strategic planning, and the challenges that we faced and the challenges that you may anticipate. So starting with our strengths. So Veronica, we came together, we were making this presentation, and we were like, well, what are our strengths? And we gave strengths to each other, which was really fun. So Veronica has a clear vision. So she may think of it as strong opinions, but it's really a clear vision for what will work, what our department does, what we will be, what we won't be doing. And that is really, really important. She's also really great at communicating that vision. So whenever we start to sit down to write something or come up with words, she is the best wordsmith. I know that if I type up something, even if it's like a good starting point, she'll come through and like make it sound amazing and perfect and clear. She also is great with new ideas. She always has an idea for what we can be doing. And along with those new ideas, there's always, in communicating the vision, there's a lot of documentation that comes along with that as well, which is great for when you do presentations like this and have to think about, how did we get to this plan that we have? There's always going to be a document that kind of lays that out and where we're going. And ensuring support. So as our department head, Veronica does a great job of making sure that what we've planned for our department is what is being relayed to administration, and that they are also supportive of what our department is doing and the direction that we're going in. Meanwhile, our whole department is touchy-feely. I'm touchy-feely in the sense that I want to be very inclusive of the team. I want everyone to be a part. I want everyone to understand. I want everyone to feel like they're included. So I'm very inclusive of the team. while we may have a strategic plan that focuses on the work, I want to make sure that we're having fun too. So we're doing the social things, we're having birthdays, we're celebrating the semester, we're doing things that kind of create that team building outside of the work that we do together. I also, along with that, want us to have meaningful relationships, both in the department, in the library, and outside. Being the assistant head means that I am responsible for a lot of our co-curricular work. So work that we do outside the classroom with information literacy. So I want to make sure that the relationships we're building across campus are also really meaningful. And I also have an ability to see multiple perspectives and all sides. So when something is written down, I may be the person that points out, like, hey, maybe this person won't see that, or hey, maybe this person will think of it this way instead of the way that we want them to perceive it. So those are our strengths. And thank y'all. I see the chat. Everyone's all like, oh, y'all are building each other up, and it's great. And it is really good. And it reminds me that we're also in the process of giving out awards across the department to support each other in that way too for everyone, and coming up with those for each other. So those are the strengths that we bring to our strategic planning for the department. And Veronica is going to talk about where we need a little help.
Yeah, just to clarify, these are strengths that we identified about each other. So this is a really interesting exercise that the two of us did that I highly recommend others do as well. And in addition to our strengths, we also talked about areas where we feel we need help. So these are things that we self-articulated rather than like shared for each other. And so some areas where I recognize that I need help, and these are like not necessarily my strengths, are really thinking through practical details, which I recognize is important, but I also need someone, and Mia's a great person to do this, and so are other folks on my team, on our team. And yeah, just kind of saying, well, that's a great idea, but what does that look like in practice, right? What are the actionable steps that we need to take to make it happen? As well as I often have a difficult time kind of like paring down ideas, can come up with ideas all day long, but we cannot do all the things. And Mia is great at reminding me of that, so that we don't start things that we don't finish. And then Mia often says that she needs help kind of getting started and organizing her ideas. She says that she always kind of wants to immediately jump in, but then it can feel really overwhelming when you start working on a project without a plan. And so it's really helpful for her to kind of see a roadmap before we get started. So those are our challenging areas, and it's a good exercise to do as someone who is like managing or leading or supervising, because it helps you really see where you can benefit from, like maybe your co-department head strength or the other people in your department or team. So I'm going to pass it over to Mia because we have another Padlet question for y'all.
All right, so you've seen our strengths and where we need help. So this Padlet question, which I will post in the chat, back to our Padlet that we've been on. What strengths do you bring to strategic planning and thinking? And what challenges do you anticipate with strategic planning and thinking, either personally or as a team? So we're asking, what are your strengths and what are some challenges that you anticipate with strategic planning? Okay, I see I'm ambitious but realistic. That is a strength. big picture systems thinker, strong visioning. Yes, fellow documenters. I appreciate documenters for sure. Getting people to participate. Strategic, collaborative, and consensus creating. Inclusive of all voices. Focus on priorities. It's important. Connecting goals to the work of your department. Broad goals to the work of your department. Important. Project management, very important. Making sure the process moves along. That would go along with our, some people mentioned the first one that like a lot of strategic plans just appear and then no one actually follows them. But project management strengths means that you can shepherd that along. Make sure things happen. Balancing long and short-term goals. Someone thinks the process is fun. I love that. Vision, very important, and the ability to draw out other people's visions. Empathy is very important. Challenge, finishing what you started. Yes. Projects can end up in the weeds. Strength, connections to other library workers at other institutions. I think that's a strength for sure. The challenge is details. Can do it, but I don't enjoy it. Understandable. Strong listener. Challenge, forgetting about the plan. We're going to talk about how we've connected it to some things that we're doing on a regular basis, or at least as part of our goals. Making sure everyone feels welcome, encouraged to share. All great strengths and some challenges that I think we're going to address in our next section. Thank you all for sharing with us and for letting us tell you about our strengths and what we bring. But now we're going to talk about process. Go ahead, Veronica.
Yeah, so kind of keeping in mind our strengths and areas that are more challenging for us. This is a process that Mia and I found to be really helpful. This is just one way to do this, obviously not the only way, but it really worked for us as a way to make sure we were meeting the needs of our team, including them through the process and thinking about all of the possibilities of work we could do for a year. And I should say that this is a process that we will be doing annually, and we just went through this past year. We really wanted to acknowledge our strengths as a foundation on which we could build, and wanted to find regular times to check in with one another and our team for just kind of like addressing some of our weaker areas and pain points, and making sure that everyone understood what we'd be working on for the year and what their role in that was. So I will pass it on to Mia to talk about where we started.
Right. So we created this shared starting point, starting with what is our group's purpose. So we always want to start with and determine your group's purpose. And the next question is, what do you, or as a group, or as individuals value? So we started with defining what our group's purpose is. What do we do? What are we here to do? And what do we value as a department and as individuals? So you probably want to feel free to produce a starting point. So we kind of created a purpose and some values, and then asked for feedback, asked for ideas. So we leveraged our strengths here because Veronica has a very clear vision for our department and what our purpose was. And this was something that we started actually because we were a new department that was created a couple of years ago. It was a good time to actually establish a purpose and establish values from the beginning. We had a chance to do that being a new department. So Veronica gave a clear vision, and we presented to the department and kind of created that buy-in, asking, okay, what do you feel, if you feel anything strongly in support or against in this type of thing. And I brought in my strengths by kind of anticipating what the department may think and agree with, have thoughts around, or potentially even disagree with. So after producing our purpose and values, this is where we ended up after the department had come together. So this is the purpose and the pillars for our department for teaching and learning. And this is a fair amount of words. So I'm going to slightly read / paraphrase some of this, but our purpose is to drive information literacy education efforts for undergraduate and graduate academic programs and co-curricular learning experiences in support of student success at the University of Houston. And then these pillars are essentially the core of our work, literally what they're pillars, what we stand on and what we ensure that we do. So curriculum integrated information literacy, co-curricular integration information literacy, professional development for our department and other teaching librarians in our libraries and instructors on campus, and support for researchers in the early stages of the research lifestyle. So this is the purpose and the pillars, the things that essentially drive the rest of what we create year to year as goals for our department. And Veronica's going to talk about what we did to help create those goals and that planning for this year.
Yeah, thanks, Mia. I also just kind of want to clarify that we spent a lot of time at the beginning of our department's formation, really focusing on like our foundation and our foundational documents. Like we have a whole folder that's like foundational documents, where we had a lot of discussion and Jamboard brainstorming and like upvoting, downvoting to determine kind of what our agreements are to work together as a team, but also our kind of learning outcomes and focus. And we're happy to share any of that process documentation after our session. Okay, so building off of our shared purpose and values or pillars, we started a brainstorm across the department. And this takes place during our like weekly department meetings. And we love a Jamboard. I know we're using Padlet today, but like our team loves a Jamboard. And so we find them really helpful for pre-work, because it gives people time to reflect and think. So what we didn't want to do was like pose the questions that are on the slide now, like in a meeting, and it's the first time you've ever seen them. We really value reflection on our team. So we often send out pre-work questions to consider beforehand, and then use that in our replies to it in a Jamboard to have a discussion. So the questions we focus on are, what are some community needs we've noticed this year? So really thinking back on the previous year's work and maybe some trends or like things that we were seeing that we hadn't seen before. What could we do as a department to make our work better, more meaningful, or more impactful? And again, this is really trying to consider what people need to do their job well as what they need for their work to feel good. I don't know how else to say it, but like to feel like you're working on something that is meaningful and going to make a difference in the community that we serve. And then lastly, this was a really pointed question, and I could see us doing this in future years around areas that we want to grow in. So we asked, what opportunities do you see for co-curricular learning efforts? Because this kind of like co-curricular information literacy integration program is like relatively new. We've always had outreach, but this is sort of a more concerted effort to like partner with student affairs, student success, experiential learning. So we made sure to ask that in this activity as well. And you can kind of see that this like group brainstorm activity is like a combination of both my strengths and Mia's strengths. So, per Mia, we're making sure everyone's voice is heard. We're kind of looking at things from multiple perspectives. Got a great Jamboard, so we are organizing ideas and documenting them. And then we're kind of looking with this last question at the big picture vision, right? So do our ideas align with our vision, purpose, and values? And then we try to, as a group, determine what we can realistically do. Because I think big visions without any follow through are often where you lose people and where a lot of planning and strategic planning can kind of fall off. And it was interesting to see that under the assumptions, because that's definitely been one of mine over the years. So we want to set priorities. So the next thing we do as a group is determine what we want to focus on this year. So we take all of those great ideas and then come to a consensus about where we want to spend most of our time. And this comes through discussion again as a group. It's really important to develop buy-in. So, who's going to work on this stuff, right? And this is where individual goal setting then comes in. So as we're creating a plan for the department, everyone in the department is also creating individual goals for themselves. So they're like, I like this, this kind of like department goal. Here's where I see myself in it. This is what I want to work on that will like work on this department goal. And then we create a plan. So what are the steps to making these things happen? We quite literally create a timeline or an action plan, both for our departmental plan, but then people do that individually. And then we need to see if they match up. And often what happened this year is like we made some changes to the department timeline based on people's individual goals. And then these last two, assessment is hard. And I say that as someone who's been like teaching in libraries for a really long time. So I like to think about it as accountability and impact, right? Like, are we doing what we say we're going to do? How will we know? How will we know if this meant anything to anybody? And so we have scheduled regular check-ins with the kind of subgroups that are working towards a particular department goal. In fact, I need to reschedule one. This is reminding me of that. And regularly checking in to make sure that we just kind of have these like informal deadlines for ourselves, and it helps keep us motivated. It helps keep us on track, and then we can kind of troubleshoot any issues that we're having throughout the process. I'm going to pass it on to Mia, who's going to talk about something really important.
It's our last Padlet question here. So we talked about how to align things with your purpose and your values and all of this good stuff, but we also have to know when to stop. So we can't do everything. We mentioned that a couple of times. So along with that, let's think about what's keeping you from doing things that align with your purpose and values. So what is interrupting that work from being directly tied to those things? And then what can you and your team stop doing? We want to avoid burnout. We want to stay aligned. We want to prevent overwork and make sure that work is equitable. And we want to stick to your priorities after you set them. So the last question on the Padlet is, how can we do that? What's stopping you, and what will you stop doing? Yes, being understaffed, that is often, it's often a thing. Poor management, stop saying yes to all the things. Absolutely. I think one of my favorite things about this department is that we are, if it's not a bit, if we're not available, we're not available. If it can't be done, if there's not enough time, if there's not enough details, it's not happening. Um, Conquer staffing, motivation. Hmm, hmm.
Also, I realize I'm like liking things as they're popping up on the Padlet. Sorry,
Okay.
y'all.
Um, I saw someone talking about how when new things get dropped, how how things can change. And that is hard. It's hard if something new appears that you like have to do right then. I get that. Yes, learning to say no for self-care. If you can stop doing formal reference services, by all means, if it's something that you can let go of, especially if it's taking a lot of time and energy from things that you want to do and prioritize, for sure. Being unrealistic about what we have time and people to do. All this is great. Agreeing to do things without pausing to ask. Right. Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes it takes getting something and just stopping for an extra second and being like, does this align with what we're trying to do? Is this part of our purpose or what we value? And if the answer is no, then you move on. Stop innovation for innovation's sake. And someone sounds so tired of innovation. Yes. Yes. Awesome. This is great. To Mr. Reed. Mm.
You know, and these questions are things that we're posing to you today as maybe managers, maybe folks who are here are not managers, maybe want to be managers. But it's really important to ask this question of the team that you oversee, right? So you might have an idea of what's keeping people from doing the things that will like move your vision forward. But it has to be a group conversation, right? There can be things that are really eating up a lot of people's time. And if you don't ask regularly, that is a recipe for burnout. And it could be that what you really need is additional staffing. It could be that maybe you need to shift workloads to another person or another department, or just saying like, no, we don't do this. One of the things we don't do, really, I say this knowing we have like one group coming in, but it's kind of a weird exception, is we don't do the kind of K through 12 like library visit and tours. We don't have the time or people for that. And unless it's a part of a campus organization or as in the example of like the group coming in later this week, they're high school students, but they're working on research in the chemistry department, right? So those are that's just one example of things that we stop doing.
Awesome. Well, we have lots of questions. So this is where we'll say thanks so much for attending our presentation. Thank you to our moderator and our tech and all the people in the chat that I recognize. Hello, thank you all for attending. Thanks to our department as well, because without them, none of this would be happening or exist, nor could we say how great it is to be working with all of them in this work and creating a strategic plan together. So we'll take questions now.
Okay, Mia and Veronica, thank you very much. And we've got a bunch of different questions. Some of them can be combined, so let me work on that a little bit. A first theme that came up from very early on in the session was about the strengths finding sharing exercise. So the very first question, how did you recognize and articulate your strengths? Did people identify for each other? Second element of that, do you recommend using such an exercise among people who have different organizational, different positions in organizational hierarchy, e.g. supervisor, direct report? Then a third related question was, let me find it again, came up quite a bit later. I know it was there somewhere. So I think it was about trying to do an exercise like that in a hybrid work environment where maybe some of your people are completely offsite, never face-to-face with anybody else. So that's all about strengths, if you want to comment on that, and I'll have some others ready for you.
Mia, do you want to take it or do you want me to take it, or both?
I'll start saying stuff and then if you have something to add. So we just did this literally in preparing for this presentation. We were sitting together and it was just kind of like, oh, well, these are your strengths and these are yours, kind of. So it wasn't necessarily organized with the two of us. I also pointed out that we're preparing, I mentioned our social things, preparing for our end of semester celebration right now. And what we're doing this year, actually for the first time, is giving awards to each other. So we actually made Teams chats. I don't know who else uses Microsoft Teams, but we literally made chats with the whole department minus the person we were talking about to come up with awards for each person in our department. So when we have our departmental celebration next week, everyone is going to get one kind of serious award that talks about their strength and one kind of silly award that talks about something external that we know and love about them, I guess, and that kind of has a funny name. So that's one way to do it. And people mentioned like virtual and all this kind of stuff. And that's all pretty much being done virtually, except our celebration will all be together. But we've done celebrations virtually as well. So that's one way to kind of do it. I don't know if you want to add anything, Veronica.
No, I'm glad you brought up our awards too. It was really interesting and like really heartwarming, more than interesting, but just to see what people voted on for one another. And part of that was like an exercise in like recognizing the good in the other people in your department and like what they bring. And I think it's something we're going to have to keep doing at the end of every academic year because it's been really, really fun. Yeah, so I think Mia, you covered it.
Okay, great. So again, an exercise that you think could also work in a hybrid work environment as well, just finding a way to bring everybody together. Okay, next kind of question cluster that came up had to do with kind of shared purpose, shared values. And so a couple of different things. How did you develop the shared purpose initially? And then somebody saying, I would love to know exercises that were used to develop shared values, because they have something coming up in the near future that they think that tool could be really useful for.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you want to send us a quick email, we'll actually send you our comm presentation from last year, along with some of the process that we used. Oh man, it took a while, but it was like so worth it, right? And some of it was to create a community agreement, but that also kind of fed into our values as a department, and the learning outcomes for our group and our purpose really came from like the restructure. Well, the purpose came from the restructure. Learning outcomes originated with like a previous instruction team that we had. Oh, thank you, Anna, that's so nice. So all of that stuff kind of came together in a way to like gather feedback from folks. But yeah, if you send us an email, we will send you the presentation and the process documents that we used. We're happy to share.
Great. And another question had been, could the slides be shared, which I think they are being gathered for the conference as well, so that all attendees will be able to access them that way. But they are welcome to contact you for some of that more additional enhanced information as well. Great. Another one kind of about people and engagement. Again, I'm kind of merging a few different things. Do you have any tips for working with the team that may be a little burned out or not seeing the point? That coupled with how do you engage with the people who in some ways are they just want to come in, do their job and then go home again afterwards. You know, they're just not as connected with that bigger kind of behind the scenes thinking. And then finally, a team that's, again, maybe changed out, significant turnover, or reluctant to just adopt new technologies or conversations that they may see as repetitive or disruptive. So kind of all things around people management and culture.
Yeah, that's a lot. Oh. Mia, do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay,
You
I'll
can start.
Okay. One, there's nothing wrong with like coming in and doing your work and going home. Like that's what a job is. I think personally, but I think maybe what people are getting at with that question is more like you want people to do a good job and be like invested or care about what they're doing. And I feel like the only way that people are going to do that is if they have some say in what they're working on, as opposed to like things just being assigned to them. And so a lot of these like kind of questions about burnout and like lack of motivation they're coming from somewhere. And it's before you can do any kind of like strategic planning or thinking, you have to identify where that's coming from and meet those needs first. If you have like a good working relationship with your team, maybe having one-on-one conversations or devoting like an entire group conversation to like, you know, what's causing you to feel burnt out, what needs do you have that are not being met currently? You know, what would make this work easier for you and more meaningful for you? And that's something that you could also do anonymously if there isn't that trust within the department or with you or with each other. Again, Jamboards are great, nice and anonymous, and really try and surface some of those issues before you get into the buy-in piece, I think. I don't know, Mia, what would you add?
Yeah, I think you covered it.
Mm-hmm. Great. And kind of thinking along those lines, again, some questions about how you doing all of this kind of virtually via Zoom sessions, other things, versus being in the same room, in the same airspace. Maybe there's a combination of both of those. I'll just add a thought that comes to mind when you've got those people who are just not as engaged in the bigger process in certain ways. You know, sometimes you've just got some people who are like, I don't brainstorm, I don't think that way, or, you know, it's just not my way to do things. And part of it might be just figuring out and helping each person adopt the more unique and singular way they can contribute to the process. So some people, it's like, I'm going to go half bake a cake and then I'm going to bring it to you and you're going to tell me all of the things that I'm not taking care of or thinking about. And that would build on different strengths and allow different people to contribute in slightly different ways. So that could be part of it. Let me see, a couple of other comments threads. Somebody just talking about the idea of pre-work and reflection beforehand, working with a group that does believe in that, but it's hard to build the time in and make it productive. So, sometimes things like Jamboards and Padlets may actually not develop any legs or move forward. But again, what recommendations are success to try to ensure that those things are successful?
Wait, I think, oh, sorry. I think there were a couple of questions in there.
Yeah.
Is it all right if I just clarify? So one was about the last one was about moving conversations forward from these kind of like group brainstorms. And then there was another one that I think I missed.
They love the idea of all that pre-work and reflection beforehand, but it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to build the time in for that and or make certain that that's effective time with a group of people. So just your thoughts and suggestions on how to do that work and do it with more success.
Yeah, I can take the time piece. Mia, do you want, or unless you wanted to take that one?
I was just going to say that also, like, even if they don't do it ahead of time, knowing that that is what's going to be discussed is really helpful.
Yeah.
So people may be thinking about it, even if they don't write beforehand. You could also give them time during to write on it, would be my other suggestion. I was going to talk about also how they mentioned how we've been doing a lot of this virtually, and we have been. The way things work around here, it's like on any given day, who's in the office and who is not fluctuates. So most of our meetings are done through Teams or Zoom or virtually. We're really in person for our celebrations. And that's about it. So that's something that I think, and that is, I think, partially why kind of the Padlet and Jamboard thing works, because even if like someone's not in, and if you're not there, everyone can kind of participate on their own time in a sense. And also how much time you give people is really important too. We try to do things, we meet once a week as a department, and I feel like people typically try to do things the week before. Sometimes it ends up just being a couple of days. And if that's the case, then we can give time at the beginning of the meeting to add or gather more thoughts. Were you going to say something else, Veronica?
No, I mean, I think that's all, yeah, that's all great advice. I think maybe the other thing I would add is that like as managers or department heads or supervisors, it really is our job to ensure that follow through. Like I think that is squarely like on us. That is our responsibility to make sure that we don't just like create this thing and then it lives in a Google folder somewhere nested within another Google folder. And I do think, if possible, this is maybe expanding a little bit on that time issue, but as you know, as the department head or manager, leader, whatever, it's really important to advocate to those above you that you need that time to do this kind of planning with your team, and come in and say like, this is what I'm going to do. This is the process. This is how long it's going to take. It's going to mean that we're not going to move forward on this one thing, but if we do this first, it's going to make our work a lot better. So I think you're sort of a part project manager, part advocate for your department. Yeah.
Okay, great. A couple of very specific questions. Hopefully they can just be much answered simply. In your work, are you using formal kind of project management timeline tools like a Gantt chart, Asana, et cetera, or is it a little bit less structured in that way in terms of helping you map it all out and keep it going?
No, I know that like those are very common, but we're we're squarely in the like Google Docs, Google spreadsheets kind of lane, Teams. So we're just kind of using what we normally do. So we don't use any kind of formal.
No formal project planning management tools. It just happens a little bit more organically for you in that way. Another question, if you had any examples as part of your process of things you were able to stop doing in favor of more meaningful values aligned work. Just wondering if you got an example of anything.
Yes. So one of the things that we did from the teaching and learning side, like the curricular side, is we did a really extensive curriculum mapping project to decide where we wanted to really focus our IL integration and be proactive about it, as opposed to just saying like yes to any requests that came in. So that helped us say no to certain requests that just like didn't make sense within our plan. And it also gave us, well, I don't know that that gave it to us, but like we also kind of told ourselves as we were doing this curriculum mapping, like we are not going to be in the business of like chasing faculty. If we don't hear back from somebody after emailing them twice, like we're just going to put a pin in it, and maybe that class is going to get taught by someone else in the next 2 or 3 years. We could try again. But that kind of like mindset of, okay, here's what we're actually focusing on for the year. Let's not spend our time chasing people who don't want to collaborate.
Yeah, great. Another one, and this kind of, how do you, anything about the concept of using shared governance or what other diplomatic ways to kind of shepherd your own idea and plan when maybe there are other library units or other people who are trying to steer you in a different direction?
I don't know if I quite understand what that question
So
is
again,
asking.
you're the teaching and
Sorry.
learning unit. You're the teaching and learning unit, but let's say you've developed your plan, but all of a sudden, Special Collections and Archives is trying to tell your unit how to do what you're doing in a way that, you know, maybe, you know, and again, it's just like, how do you find a way sometimes to tell people, you know, we've got our vision and everything moving forward. And that really balances with the question of, did you review a lot of external, like institutional mission strategic plan? It sounds like you did, but probably again, just how do you make certain you stay balanced between what you two may think is really the right things to do, but how do you do it in the broader context of your organization so that they're not going, you're just going off in a direction that we don't believe in?
Oh man, that's I feel like that is a conflict management communication question. The person who asked this should send me an email and I will reply back.
That is always a difficult, challenging one. There's no doubt about it.
I have some thoughts, but well, now it's noon, so
an example of a session for a future Calm conference. There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
And we are at time, so thank you very much for everything. Thank you to all of we have 235 people were signed up today, so that was a lot of people. Thanks to everyone for your comments and questions. Material will be gathered together and be accessible later. And again, both Mia and Veronica are happy to further address questions and comments with you.
Thank you all for coming. Have an excellent rest of your conference. I can't wait for some of the sessions this afternoon. Shanti, do we need to close the room?
Okay. I captured the Q&A thread. It turns out that isn't as easily captured as the chat.
Oh.
So I'll email that to you both. Or at least we discovered that yesterday. So I'll email that to both of you.